Good morning, students. How are you all? This is Mr. Muhammad with you for yet again a new science class today. I hope you are all fine. I'm fine too. So let's start. So first of all, I would like to start with a small warm-up. Okay, you need to solve the puzzle. Okay, which way the fish will reach its pond. Okay, try to find out. I'll give you 1 minute for this. And after that we will start with our own lesson. So now let us discuss about what we have started learning yesterday. Okay, so if you remember, we have started learning about the term fossils. I'm just reminding you about what are fossils. The fossils are usually the remains or traces of an organism that lived a long ago is a fossil. Fossils can be made of organisms' hard parts or soft parts. Okay, the hard parts are usually the teeth, bones, and shells, which in the future becomes fossils of, let's say, for example, you can see over here the picture of a dinosaur, which has turned into a fossil. Now, let us learn what do actually fossils tell us. Fossils tell us much about the past. They tell us about organisms that once lived on Earth. They also tell us about the environments in which the organisms lived. Fossils can even tell us how some organisms have changed over time. Okay, so in short, fossils can tell you much about the past, about the organisms, how it was, about the environment, and about how organisms changed over the time. Okay. Now let us look at some different type of fossils. As you can see in the picture, some fossils like the bones and teeth are the remains of the organisms. Yani, these organisms used to live before, and their meat or their flesh has been decomposed by bacteria or worms that stay under the ground. So what is remaining? Only the bones of them. So these are those type of fossils. So you will find some fossils which only the bones and the teeth are remaining. Apart from that, other things have been decomposed or destroyed. Next, in the second picture, as you can see, you will find some shapes. Others are simply the shapes of ancient organisms that were preserved in rocks. So you will find some fossils which have the shapes of them placed on rocks, and it has been on the rocks for a lot of years. Okay, as you can see in the picture. So now I have given over here two pictures. Okay, in both the pictures, which animal or which object has been fossilized, and in which animal has been on placed on this rock or has died over the rocks, and and it has fossilized completely. What do you think? Take 10 seconds. Yes. So in the first picture, you can see a fish has been fossilized, and in the second picture, you can see a dinosaur type of animal has been fossilized. Okay, that means you can see the shapes of them placed on the rock, and they have died over that, and after lot of pressure, the shapes have been created on the rocks. Okay, now let us look at some fossils that are from your book. Okay, I'll just inform the page number, so just wait one sec. Okay, so the page number is yeah, the page number is 354. Okay, so follow page 354 of your book, and I'm going to explain from there. So look at the first picture is about the shell impressions. So you in the first picture you can see the shell impressions in the rock are one type of fossil. So on the fossil, the impression or the shapes that have been created by lot of pressure is one type of fossil. So another type of fossil formed when the impressions were slowly filled with minerals. Okay, so these are the shapes that have been created on rocks by the, let's say, an animal died over the rocks, and after a lot of pressure, the shapes of them have been created on the rocks. Okay, so these are some examples. Now look at the next picture. Some fossils like this mammoth form when an organism becomes trapped in water. So this particular organism has been trapped in water, which has been frozen and becomes ice. This fossil is more than 40,000 years old. Ooh, so imagine how old it is. So what happened is it looks like an elephant, right? Baby elephant. So what has happened is this baby elephant may have got trapped in water, and due to very cold conditions, it froze completely. It died and it froze. Okay. So now we know that usually the flesh of any animal will not decompose or will not be destroyed if it is frozen. So it was frozen, and it after like 40,000 years it has been picked up from that place, and it's looking like a stone, right? So this is an example of another type of fossil which has been stuck under water, and due to freezing cold ice, it it completely turned into an ice type of object. Now let us look at these pictures. This is also from page 354 of your book. So the first picture shows us a picture of petrified wood. So what is the petrified wood? Petrified wood, and it's a wood which has been there in that place for a lot of years. Petro usually means rock, means the wood has turned so strong it looks like a rock. So this fossil formed when the wood of the plant was replaced by very hard minerals over time. So that means this rock has been in that place for, let's say, over hundreds, thousands of years and years. And because of the action of minerals, it has turned it into a completely different structure. Usually we know how wood is, but because it has been there for such a long period of time, it now feels like a rock. Okay, so that is why we call it as petrified wood. The next picture, the second picture, look at the second picture carefully. So this fossil obviously is actually formed from a leaf. The leaf may have been under pressure, it has been underground, and it has created, it's been old, it's dead, and the color has changed completely. So this fossil formed when all the moisture of the leaf was pressed out. Moisture means usually the water. So we know that leaf contains some sort of water, and because of lot of years it has been torn from a plant, so it does not get enough water, so all the water has moved out, and it lays only a thin coating of carbon behind. So it's, you know that if a leaf becomes old, for it remains for such a long period of time, what will happen, right? That's this. These are also some different type of fossils. Okay, now these two pictures are from page 355. So sometimes you see organisms can get trapped in sticky tree sap and die. You know, some trees, they have some like some sort of juice, like especially in our country we have a tree named jackfruit tree. Okay, so the jackfruit is a fruit. Okay, that from that tree a sap, yani a white type of liquid comes out. So what happens is sometimes insects like ants, we know that on trees usually you'll find ants walking over the let's say the trunk of the tree or the bark of the tree. So what happens is the ants may get stuck into the juice, the sticky juice of that tree, which we call the sap. Okay, so the organisms can get trapped in sticky tree sap, and sap, once it gets stuck, it cannot move because it's sticky, right? So if we touch it, we can wash our hands with soap, but still our hands will feel sticky, right? So that's why we wash our hands, and we can get easily, well, like we can get away from the sticky sap. But the ants, they do not have soap, and they are so small that they cannot um, like get away or just come out of that sticky sap. So what happens as the sap, if now if the, let's say, the drop of sap falls on the ground, it stays over there for a long period of time, the sap hardens, and the organisms or the ants which get stick into the sap, it becomes fossilized in the sap. The name of this type of fossil is called amber. Okay, amber, amber. And the last one are the footprints. The footprints formed when the soft mud around them turned to rock. So these are the footprints of different animals, okay? And because they have walked on the rock for a lot of, after a lot of years, they have turned so strong, and the footprints remain on the rock. So these are also some fossils known as trace fossils, okay? Remember, the footprints, if they are usually called the trace fossils. Anyways, so I would like you to do an activity on, do the activity questions number 7 and 8 from your book by yourself, and in the live lesson I will reveal the answers for you.
Welcome to Moo Math and Science and different types of fossils. Fossils give us a glimpse into what life was like in the past. In this video, I will cover several different types of fossils, including mineralization, carbonization, molds and casts, trace fossils, and preserved remains. Fossils range from this dinosaur fossil to footprints that are thousands of years old. Up first, mineralization. If an organism dies and is buried under sand and other sediments, minerals may replace the original material. The minerals may replace all of the organism or a part of the organism. Eventually, only the minerals are left behind and will look like the original organism. A good example of mineralization is petrified wood. Next is carbonization. Carbonization forms when a dead organism is compressed over time. As the organism is buried, gases escape from the sediment and carbon is left behind, and all that remains is a carbon outline of the once living organism. Molds and casts. Sometimes an organism will die, and hard parts of the organism, like a bone or a tooth, will make an impression, and this impression creates a mold that hardens, and you get a permanent record. On the other hand, this impression or mold can fill up and will create a cast, which is a copy of the impression. Take a look at these molds and casts, and it'll help you see the difference between the mold and a cast. And sometimes you don't even have a record of the entire organism, but you have evidence of their behavior. You may find a footprint or a track. Here are several examples of trace fossils. And finally, preserved remains of the original material. An animal may fall in a tar pit, and over centuries, the tar pit preserves the bones or the trapped animal. Or you may get an insect caught in amber, and it will remain in the amber for thousands of years. So there we go, the different types of fossils. Thanks for watching, and Moo Moo Math uploads a new math and science video every day. Please subscribe and share.
Good morning, students. How are you all? This is Mr. Muhammad with you for yet again a brand new science class today. I hope you're all fine. I'm fine too. So let's start.